before you watch this video, I wanted to come on and make an intro video because I wanted to give you some tea. I wanted to be transparent. So I have held on to this video for the last 3.5 years. It was filmed 3.5 years ago, early February, for my birthday. So a few weeks after my birthday. And it was actually 3.5 years after my last project, my personal project, Boys Don't Cry. And I tell that testimony if you go to the Colossal Voice playlist, the first video there, and I talk about surrender, you'll get more details behind that story. So I did this video, and the strategies in this video were from God, but I was disobedient. I held on to this video for so long because I was self-conscious. I didn't like how I looked. I was very self-conscious about my weight. That is something that I struggled with for most of my entire life, from junior high all the way down. I gained, lose. And finally, God was able to help me and deliver me from that giant through the power of inner transformation and wholeness. I realized that until I was whole and healed from the inside, that I will not be able to do or accomplish anything that would be able to sustain itself on the outside. So this channel is all about healing and transformation and wholeness. So how can I help you if I am not honest? I will talk about this specific journey later and all that God has me doing, where I can help others, not now. I'm still in the midst of it, but I'm confident now and I'm settled now. But I will say, when the Lord told me to release it, I said, Lord, you want me to do what? I said, Lord, not that one. Can we release any something else? Not that one. Can I just hold on? He's like, I need you to be obedient. So it seems like ever since I told God I surrender, he has been testing your girl. Like he has been wanting to know if I am for real. So I was like, oh, but I said, Lord, this is for you. This is about you. Whatever you want me to do, I will do. So here it is. So watch it, be blessed. And you know what? It's a testimony in the making, because when he's finished with this story, your girl is not going to look like what she's been through. Hey, so I want you to watch it. I want you to take this strategy, apply it to your life. I promise you it will change everything. But I just wanted to come and share that little piece so that you can be inspired to be obedient and to step out on faith, even though it may not be perfect and it may not look how you want it to look, and it's not in the package, and you care about the opinions of people. Because I cared. I was like, Lord, they're going to say I'm this, I'm that. But in this season, obedience is better than sacrifice. And because I've allowed God on the inside of me to continue to do a work on the inside of me, I can say, okay, I release that. So that is how I know I'm ready now. And even in watching this video, there was still so much pride. There was so much things and inner things that needed to be healed that I couldn't see at the time, but I can see now since I'm more spiritually mature. But it's a lesson. It's a lesson. I'm glad I did it. Like I said, the strategies are from heaven. You're going to be blessed there. But even this video, it's a testimony to my journey of surrender. Okay. So I hope you enjoy it, and I will come back and talk to you soon. Okay. Bye-bye.
It's colossal. Big dreams win. Big dreams win. Big. It's colossal.
Take it, been there more like a lifetime since I felt myself winning. Make a purpose, take a name, be a wife. Catch prey on 4 babies outside. Sleep deprived, hope on life, praying for sight. Restless nights, morning light. Shake up, got the blessing, rest of night. Rose up this world, want to fight, chill. Everything's got plans. Who's the ice, my tight, and game plan. Crash on, see one, till they plan. Break up, take up, no, not plan. My dreams away, the vision, favorite sensitive. Drop away, keep the head, all things to Christ. I'm saying my faith, all things to Christ. I ride away, get on in it.
Listen, I know that it is not by coincidence that you are here today. I know that this is a destiny moment, and no matter what you've been through, No matter what life has thrown your way, you have the power to be colossal. This is really a homecoming for me. This is not just a birthday celebration, but it's a homecoming. I've had a microphone in my hand since the age of 2, terrorizing my parents with the gift of gab. I'm sure they wanted to send the gift in me back many, many, many times before. And then when I was 5 years old, I started to learn about my creative gifts in writing, poetry, and short stories. But at 14 years old, something happened that changed my life. I discovered speech and debate at school, and I got an opportunity to speak, and people would listen. And original oratory was my favorite competition piece. And then I remember my first piece was it was called Finding Nemo, about self-actualization and finding your own way. My debate teacher hated it, but everybody else loved it. And even then, God was showing a glimpse of what he had inside of me. How many of you have ever had those moments where God will show you a small glimpse? If you look back and you think and you say, what am I called to do? What am I born to do? He'll show you those little moments. And that was a moment for me. Also at 14 years old, my dad took me to a Get Motivated seminar that used to come to South Florida every year. And for the first time ever, I saw Zig Ziglar grace the stage. And I remember being just so captivated by Zig. He was from Yazoo, Mississippi, and there they have a pump, and he was priming the pump and talking about effort and work ethic. And I just said, what is this? I asked my dad, I said, what is this? I know that you all know I'm a PK, but for those watching online, I am a preacher's kid, and I've heard preaching all of my life. But there was something so different about this moment. It just felt natural to me. So my dad says, well, he's a motivational speaker. And my first question was, well, how much does he get paid? And he had a big smile across his face, and he said, a lot. And I remember looking back up at Zig, and from the depths of my soul, I just felt it so deep. I said it out loud. I said, I can do that. Have you ever had a moment in your life, you're going about your day, the hustle and bustle, but there's a voice in your ear that says, I can do that? There's this thing that's saying inside of you, I call it your colossal home, that tells you you can do that. There's more to your life. There are more gifts and talents that you have. You can do that. It's been 21 years since I saw Zig on stage, but those words have never left my ears. They've always been ringing in my ears. And as I went into my 20s, I immersed myself in the performing arts, doing stage plays and films, taught myself how to edit, and I loved doing that. And in the corporate arena, I was always the one giving presentations and talking to clients. But I could still hear that voice in my ear saying, you could do that. So what was holding me back? As I got older, I realized there were 2 things that really stood out to me. And the first one was, I never wanted to be called the preacher, okay? Now, I don't hoop, I don't holler, and according to my family, I don't have much rhythm, so I don't have a shout either. And every time I get prayed for, I got one move. One move. They pray for me, and it's the up, down. That's all I do. That's all I got for you, Jesus. So it definitely wasn't the preacher. But the second one was, I always thought I needed to have a special story. I remember after I saw Zig, I told a friend in the lunchroom at school, I said, hey, I'm going to be a motivational speaker. I love the plays. I love all of that. But I'm also going to speak. And this person said, well, you come from a home with 2 parents. You've never had your lights turned off. You've never had any struggles. How can you do that? How many of you know that sometimes you got to be careful who you roll with? Because then they'll start criticizing and poking at the thing that God has given you. And I never realized it, but that seed actually followed me. And I would say all through my 20s, well, I don't have the right story yet. You see these motivational speakers, and they're electrifying the crowds. They've gone through all of these great triumphs, and they've overcome tragedy. How can I do that? I'm not the perfect size. You got to get fine in order for the world to be able to hear me. And then God began to speak with me, and he said, at a very low place in my life, he said, you've already been doing that. Even while you were broken, whether it was over the phone or a text message or at a cubicle in the office or an impromptu lunch date. Anytime I have the opportunity to have an interaction with others, my goal is to transform and transfigure their life. So no matter where you are, you can always get started with what you have. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And as I tried to speak early on, I had a problem with finding my natural voice. I'm trained in speech and debate, so I could become very theatrical. And this is my first time being in front of people in the last 3.5 years since we did the open call for Boys Don't Cry. And we'll talk about that moment. And so I had my sisters, I said, I want you to listen to what I'm going to be speaking about and just get your feedback. And so I did it for them. I'm like, are you motivated? And they're like, And you know, if you know my family, if you get a what's coming next is not too good. I was like, well, you know, it's all right. But can you give us some soul food? You giving us a salad? And it's not even a good salad. It's like a spring mix. You know, can we get at least a side or something? But what they were saying to me is, can you be more authentic? Can you be more raw? But in order to be raw, you got to go into those painful moments that you really don't want people to know about. So today, I'm going to be doing something different. I'm going to be inviting you into my home here to have a meal. And this meal might not be something you expect, but I promise you it will transform your life forever. And it's something that you can always thaw out in your heart and use over and over again as much as you need it. So we're going to dive into that tonight. So the first thing I want to do is kind of talk about this dark place that I had in my life. I'm going to be very transparent about that. When I turned 30 years old, I felt like the world had come to an end. Every goal, every dream, every ambition that I had kind of just vanished when the clock hit 12 o'clock midnight on my birthday. And I was just so depressed about that. It really was very dramatic. And when I turned 31 years old, it was the same thing. But I said, you know, this time I'm going to chase my dreams, and it's going to be different. I'm going to go after that thing. I've been doing the arts for the last decade of my life since, well, when I was younger, but definitely throughout my 20s. So this is what I'm going to chase. This is what I'm going to do. So I decided to do Boys Don't Cry. We had done it for church, but I wanted to put it on a bigger platform. And so we decided to do that. And during that time, I was working for a company for 4 years, and it had come to a place where I no longer could grow. The leadership was changing, the culture was changing, and the environment was not conducive to what my goals were. And so I started praying about that. I'm like, God, I know you want to do something here, but I kept praying about it. And then I heard the Lord said, well, it's time to make a move. You know, it's time to go. So I said, okay. And I would caution anybody, whoever wants to make that move, just make sure you get on your knees and you get all the instructions first. But I know that it was God, and we'll go on and we'll talk about that. So while I was there, I said, okay, we're going to do that. And I had been reading Devon Franklin's book, Produced by Faith. If any of you don't know Devon Franklin, he's a producer in Hollywood. He's up on the screen. And actually, I met Devon in 2012 at a conference. And I said, Devon, you know, we're going to work together. We're going to do some great things for Hollywood. And he's like, what's your name? I said, my name is Kalasha Butts. And he's like, oh, I won't forget that. But Devon Franklin wrote this book called Produced by Faith. He's a Christian producer in Hollywood. He was mentored by Will Smith. He works for Will Smith Entertainment Company, Overlook Entertainment. And he had come to this time in his life where it was time to move. And Will had even told him, you know, it's time to do some things different. Will tried to fill job offers for him, but nothing was opening. So he talks about this one day. He goes into the bathroom. He's so frustrated. And he's like, I'm ready to go. And God said for him to leave. So he puts in his resignation. He goes home a couple of days, nothing. And he gets an offer from Sony to be an executive producer. It's a life-changing opportunity. So, you know, I'm reading this book, God, you said go. And I'm like, you know, you have no respect to person. So if you could do it for Devon, then surely, you know, you're going to do it for me. Yeah, it didn't end well. But it wasn't because I didn't hear the voice of the Lord. I did. And after I left, a lot of things started moving in that company. But the reason why I didn't work very well is because I had enough faith to jump, but I did not have enough faith to fly. And when I left this organization, I had a plan. I had savings, I had this, but I underestimated the cost of putting on that production. I didn't look at all of that. And Boys Don't Cry was very successful in terms of it transforming lives, but it didn't make any money. And at the bank, it was a red light special. So I was like, all right, Lord, well, what I'm going to do, we're going to make this work. We're going to push it. And I heard the Lord say to me, he shifted me. He's like, it's time for you to start speaking. I'm like, nah, God, we're not finna do that. Like, this the plan. I'm like, this for the family. This is my big break, and it's the big break of everybody else, because there are people who had ambitions and dreams of being in the entertainment world, carrying all of these people on my back. Like, Lord, what are you doing? So at this point, I'm praying. And you know what? God is silent. And so there I am, I have a parachute on, I'm 60 feet in the air, and I'm looking at the airplane, and God's like, jump again. And I froze. And for 3.5 years, God lands the plane. He enrolls me in the School of Development, and he said, you're not ready yet. And in this time, I had never experienced depression or anything like that, but I was. Can we put that photo up? I had gained the most weight I had ever been. I just was so angry at God, trying to figure out, well, is this faith thing that I've always been taught, does this work? And I never stopped believing in God, but I did start to think, well, hey, God, are you not believing in me any longer? Where are you in this? Like, it hurt. This is my dream. What are you doing? I have served in the church. I have paid my dues, and this is what I get. And so after a while, I'm just going through back and forth, and God's like, are you done yet? Are you done yet? So eventually, I started to pray and seek his face, and I said, okay, God, if you want me to give up my entertainment dreams, I will. I just want to be wherever you are. I said, I'll go, but I don't have much left. Because everything that I had, I lost in the last season. All of the people, the resources, the donors, everything that I had access to were no longer there. And now my life was just a hot mess. And I'm like, where are you in all of this? So I said, I'll go, but I don't have much. And he brought me to one of my favorite Bible stories. It's in 2 Kings 4, and it's called The Widow's Oil. And it's about this woman who is experiencing great crisis. Her husband has just died, and now she's responsible for raising 2 boys on her own. And to make matters worse, her husband owes debt to these extremely dangerous men, and they've threatened to kidnap her sons to use them as slaves if she does not satisfy this debt. So she seeks out Prophet Elijah, who her husband served, and she said, what are you're going to do? I need help. And he asked her one question. He said, what is in your house? And you notice he didn't ask for anything outside of her. He asked for what was in her. And so the Lord brought me back to my house. And he said, you're here on your couch, and you're comfortable, and you're doing your thing, but now I need you to get in the kitchen. So I said, well, what do you mean by get in the kitchen? He said, I need you to get in the kitchen. And that brings me to a story, childhood memory that I have when I was younger. So my dad was always the Southern cook of the house. Everything had to be seasoned up, sugared up, just right. If it's bland, he's going to tell you and he won't eat it. So one day at lunch, he comes in and he grabs a loaf of bread. I'm like, okay, that's normal. That's cool. And then he grabs the mayonnaise. I'm like, okay, also normal. That's right. But then he picks up some bananas, which are not on my table, but he picks up some bananas. And I said, Houston, we have a problem. What are you going to do with those bananas? And he cuts the bananas in half, and he places them on the bread. and he makes a banana and mayonnaise sandwich. And I'm like, what is that? And then I realized that sometimes when you're trying to move from a place of great necessity, where I was, and necessity isn't just finances. It can be anything that you're lacking. It can be companionship. It can be relationships. It can be self-confidence. Necessity is anything. When you're working towards getting out of a place of necessity and you're trying to use what you have, sometimes your dreams look a lot like banana and mayonnaise sandwiches. They're edible, but they're not appealing. It looks like a struggle meal, but it tastes like a strategy. And then I realized that bananas and mayonnaise sandwiches really started to emerge during the Great Depression. The Great Depression was one of the worst economic downturns in the history of the industrialized world between 1929 and 1939. Millions of Americans were unemployed, the banks were failing, and food was scarce, so people had to become resourceful. And they started to make things like hot dogs and potatoes, no-bake pies, meatloaf, things that weren't usual, and banana and mayonnaise sandwiches. That's what came out of that. And so back to my kitchen, the Lord said, I want you to get in the kitchen, and I want you to make a meal. So for this next illustration, I want to need all of you, and I just want you to start to clap on beat. Just follow me. Oh, no, so somebody off beat already. So just 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to say this with me. Holy Spirit, activate. Holy Spirit, activate. Keep saying it. Y'all know this off TikTok. Activate, activate. Keep saying it. And then you're going to be in your kitchen. You're going to be making your banana and mayonnaise sandwich. And as you're doing it, it looks pretty silly. And God is giving you a strategy. And he's like, you know what? This is going to be your packaging. I'm going to give you a brand. I'm going to bring some resources. It looks like nothing, but I'm really activating it. Okay, you can stop singing. So while you're doing that, he is activating the thing that you're using in your house. It looks like nothing to you, but it's a sacrifice he needs to make the miracle, right? So in 2016, the banana and mayonnaise sandwich went viral. And see, this is one of the products that you came up with. It's the banana bar, B&M Company. So those are the things that God gives you. You say it's small, but I'm going to make it work for you. And you get, and while you're doing it, the people, like, what's she making over there? That's a waste of your time. But you see what the Lord is doing, right? So as I was thinking about this, in 2016, the sandwich went viral. Can you put that picture back up on the screen? When a NASCAR driver, let me make sure I'm saying his name right, Dale Earnhardt, tweeted a picture of him making his famous sandwich. And it captivated his followers. I mean, people were inviting him on Good Morning America, and they were inviting him on all these different talk shows to talk about his banana and mayonnaise sandwich, his famous sandwich that was many people had done for many years, but sometimes the right person's hand just has to be on it. That's just a side note. And so it captivated people. So now everybody started doing it. They started making their own combinations, banana and peanut butter, banana and pineapples. People are trying everything. So the people that were once talking about you in the last season, they're like, can I get a piece in this season? They're like, can I have some? And do you know that now you can go and get a banana and mayonnaise sandwich and pay for it in some restaurants across the South. So what was once a struggle meal has now become a delicacy. Now, a delicacy is a rare or expensive food. It's highly desirable. It's sophisticated. And it's authentic. It's a delicacy to you. There's a demand for it, okay? And that brought me, she already put it up, so I'm going to talk about it. Go back. That brought me to the title of this. You can go to the previous slide. The title of this message is Banana and Mayonnaise Sandwiches. Finding the courage to move from necessity to delicacy. One thing about delicacy is that you have to make sure you take care of it and handle it with care. And I found out that many of the foods that we consider a delicacy today were once labeled a poor man's meal. And that's what the banana and mayonnaise sandwich was in the Great Depression. All of those meals, meatloaf and those things, were poor man's meal. And one of those items is sushi. How many people eat sushi? Like, I love sushi. But sushi was the food for poor Japanese fishermen. It was discovered that by placing fermented rice around the fish would stay fresher. Do you know that the most expensive restaurant in New York City is a sushi restaurant? And it's $500 per seat in order for you to get in? Lobster was also a poor man's meal. There was so much lobster that they would give it to the people that were poor because it was dirt cheap. Farmers would use lobster to fertilize their crops, and prisons would feed it to prisoners. The states began to pass laws stating that prisons could not feed prisoners lobster more than twice a day because it was cruel and unusual punishment. And now lobster is one of the most highest price tickets when you go to a restaurant. So it's a delicacy now. Now I want to go back to the widow's woman's story. Let's kind of complete that. So when Elijah asked her, what is in your house? She says, all I have is oil. So she doesn't see value in the thing that's inside of her. But he says, go out and get the pots, come in, borrow the pots, come in with your children, and shut up in the house. So this is what I want to point out. Sometimes when we're making our sandwich, you got to make sure you protect it. Because you're in a shut-up season, which means nobody else doesn't know about it yet. So people are like, what are you doing? Like, what is that? That's nothing over there. So while you're shut up, they really think it's a shut-down season. But it's really a shut-up season. And you have to handle it with care so that it's not contaminated. That's what you have to do, because one day it's going to become a delicacy. And then she goes out, and he says, once you pour the oil, you have to go out and sell it, pay your debts, and you're going to have more than enough to live off of. Once you get the banana and mayonnaise sandwich, the thing that's in your house, then you have to have the courage to go out and serve it. And actually serving it really becomes an act of service. Because anyone knows with business, the way that you have a successful business is you find a problem and you solve it. You're making others' lives better with your oil, and you're getting paid for it. So God will give you a strategy to make sure that there's no need or lack or necessity in your house. So she had to have the courage to go from need to get the banana and mayonnaise sandwich, and then she couldn't go out timid like, oh man, this is all I got. She said, extra, I got a banana and mayonnaise sandwich. Anybody want to buy it? Lord, how do you want me to sell it? You want me to sell half of it, a quarter of it? Yeah, what do you want me to do with it? And she goes out, and she makes more than enough to pay off her debts. Now, she could have just kept the oil to herself, and then her sons would have been taken. So she had to have the courage to be able to go out and do what she needed to do to move into delicacy. Now, necessity is a mindset. Let's go to that slide. If you can change the way you see it, you can change the way you seize it. From Oprah Winfrey to Walt Disney to Tyler Perry, there's so many people that are using the B&M principle is what I call it now, throughout their lives, and they're being successful. But there was one woman where a sandwich changed her entire life. And that woman is none other than Tabitha Brown, because it's her business. Tab was an Uber driver, and one day she decided to take a break, and she decided to go in and try Whole Foods avocado sandwich. So she comes out, and the Lord's like, hold up. I want you to show the people what you're eating, so make a video. She's like, make a video? That doesn't make sense. I don't even have followers. So she makes her video, and within 24 hours, the video goes viral. Within days, she's in partnership with Whole Foods. But one of the things that's so crazy is why she's getting all of this notoriety and everyone wants to know who Tabitha Brown is. People don't realize that her sandwich was born out of necessity, a painful place. She tells the story where she was chronically ill for many years, where she couldn't even move. And her daughter brings home information about a vegan lifestyle, and she tries it for 30 days, and it transforms her life. And she said, Lord, if you would heal me, then you could have me. So now her sandwich doesn't even look like where she came from. And now Tabitha's Kitchen is moved from a place of just cooking food, but now she's serving it up, and she's creating an act of service. She's serving more than food. Now she's serving healing. She's serving wholeness. She's serving all of this with her beautiful smile and with her Southern cliches, because it's your business. And, Tabitha really wanted to be an actress, so she would go out for roles. Now she's not even auditioning. They're calling her. And not only are they calling her, they say, hey, we're writing the scripts around you. Everything that she does, you can guarantee the last line will be, because it's my business. Because that is her delicacy. That is her authentic strategy, that nobody else can put their hands on it because it's hers. It was a banana and mayonnaise sandwich. She was driving Uber. And now she just opened up a vegan restaurant. She has a best-selling book on Amazon. She's on commercials. She's on The Chi. She's in movies. She is living the best. She just retired her husband. She is living her colossal life because she had enough courage to move out of necessity into delicacy. Be Colossal, I got this idea when I was 23. It actually started out as Colossal Me. And Be Colossal was not birthed. Well, the goal is to be able to touch people and transform lives by teaching people around the globe to be colossal, big, inside out. And that is the foundation of what I do, whether it's in my creative projects or with the Be Colossal movement. But really, it was just an authentic strategy to help me overcome the giant of obesity that I dealt with for so many years. I wanted a place where I could change the perception of it. So I was in the 6th grade, 11 years old, and I never used my first name when I was in elementary school or college. Well, high school. Well, not elementary and middle. I used it in high school and beyond. And my 6th grade teacher said, why do you refuse to use your last name? She says, your first name. She says, is it because it sounds like colossal? And colossal means to be extremely large. It means to be gigantic, enormous. It also means to be great. I just perceived it a different way. And so at 23 years old, I got Colossal Me. At 28, it became Be Colossal. Still use it as a tag, but now it's the Be Colossal movement. But it was birthed out of a very painful place. Now, in the last 4.5 months, I'm almost 50 pounds down. Yes. Excited about that. And this time, it will be forever. The reason why it will be is because I did the work from the inside first. I stopped going and looking for places outside of me to figure out what was wrong with me. I had to go dig in my own house. And as painful as the last 3.5 years have been, I wouldn't give it up for anything, because I wouldn't be here today without it. I could not stand on this stage and be qualified to tell you that you have the power to move from necessity to delicacy if I wasn't able to do that first. And what you see on stage is a banana and mayonnaise sandwich. I wanted to do so much more. I'm very grand. I like to do it big. And the Lord kept stripping me down to this. I'm like, why is this all you get? This all I want you to do. I know you want to go big and go bolder and really make a statement, but all you get right now is a banana and mayonnaise sandwich. And I said, okay, Lord, well, I'll take it. And he said to me, all those other things, the movies and everything else that you said you would give up, he said, I'm going to bring that to pass. But right now, all I need is you. So I said, whatever you want. I'm not even trying to figure that part out anymore. Whatever you would have me to do, here I am with my banana and mayonnaise sandwich. When my sisters and I were younger, we used to always like to watch The Wizard of Oz. And Dorothy wanted to find this beautiful place that was somewhere over the rainbow. It was outside of herself. And she wanted to get there. So in the very first scene of the movie, it's black and white, it's dreary, and she sings this song called Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And the words go like this. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard about once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue. And the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then? Oh, why can I? Dorothy thinks she has to find something outside of herself to be successful, to have status. And the funny thing is, when she gets to Oz, the only goal that she has for the entire duration of the film is to what? Get back home. So the grass wasn't greener on the other side. And you know what? In the last scene of the movie, one of the last scenes, Dorothy changes her whole language. She says, if I ever go looking for my heart's desire again, I won't look any further than my own backyard. Because if it wasn't there, I never lost it to begin with. I hope that you will never look at a banana or a jar of mayonnaise or even bread the same way for the rest of your life. I hope that you would have the courage to look at my story and to look at what I'm doing here today. I didn't want to do this like this. I wanted to just record it, put it out, but this is how God gave it to me, so I had to do it. When I first put out the flyer, and this wasn't a malicious comment, but someone said, well, why is it so over the top? Why you got to do all that? And in the inside, I said, because you don't understand the courage it took for me to stand on this stage. This is my colossal. It's not very pretty, but it's the only banana and mayonnaise sandwich that I have. So no matter what life throws your way, you can be colossal, big from the inside out. I want you to know that no matter what you go through, you can find the courage to be able to move from necessity to delicacy. All you have to do is have the courage to go back home. I love you. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you soon.
You scared of that clown? The devil? Say devil. I bind the spirit of fear.